Episode 19 underway. Justin Barlow, Rock and Randy coming at you. PPW back in the house, and PPW fans back in the house this last Saturday. My God, that felt good. Felt really good. We want to thank you all who came out to support us as we effectively relaunched Premier Pro Wrestling at the Premier Studio after being closed down for the better part of 3 months because of Corona Mania. So thank you guys who came out to support us, and we're back every Saturday night now, so as soon as you folks can come out and see one of our shows in Woodstock, do it. We're back every Saturday night for your viewing pleasure. It was a good night this last Saturday night, Rand. We had, what did we have? We had a grudge match between Poncho and Not Bad Chad. Still remains unresolved between those two because Poncho introduced a chair into the ring. Then we had, what else did we have? We had a 30-minute Iron Man match. Tim Castle and Jose Acosta, a rematch from the last Corona Mania taping, this time with a shot at the King of the Iron Man plaque on the line.
So let me explain. And this just set me off because of what you said earlier. Now, rematch. It sounds like we're trying to serve you hammered shit, but we're not serving you hammered shit. Tim Castle and Jose were so fucking unbelievable in that 30-minute Iron Man without a crowd that we decided to do it in front of a crowd, and it certainly did not fucking disappoint.
Oh, hell no, it didn't. That's 2 back-to-back weeks. You and I got a workout just calling commentary on one of their matches.
Exactly. Then the main event, did you say that already?
Not yet. The main event, I mentioned Matt Vine earlier. He's the King of the Iron Man. He's going to face Jose this Saturday for that plaque because Jose won the Iron Man at literally the last second. Matt Vine put the cup up, the Challenge Pro Cup, up against Inestra and Chase Gosling.
Exactly. The Challenge Pro Cup, what is that? Let's define.
Challenge Pro Championship is our Triple Threat Championship, and I believe the only active Triple Threat Championship in pro wrestling.
And aside from that, and this is the truth, this is a concept match, and this is what separates us from these idiots that want to lump us in or lump themselves in or attach to us as indie wrestling. And I'm referring to companies near here, near Chicago.
The Chicago cesspool of indie wrestling?
Yeah. Years ago, I worked with Ring of Honor. I tried to escalate my relationship with Ring of Honor. Starting with, I hit up Kerry Silken when he was the owner. Gabe Sapolsky had the book. Ross Foreman did merchandise and other things within the infrastructure. And Sid Ike was basically their business manager, you know. The first thing I did was I hit them up and said, man, you guys are sitting on a gold mine, even though business is down since you lost Punk and Joe and all them, it was still drawing decently, you know. First thing was they weren't doing any grassroots promoting. So Chicago Ridge, I hit Kerry up and said, pay me this certain fee, and I promise you I'm going to bump up your Chicago Ridge attendance, you know. And you don't even know this, but I went ahead and did that. And it was awesome because it was the first time since they've been running that building that they oversold the building. There were like 1,700 people there, and we ran out of the chairs and had to open up more bleachers because there was 200 people standing, you know. Damn. Which was great. That was huge. The problem there was that instead of being embraced, I was treated like I was at TNA. My intentions were always good. I wanted to be a part of something and help boost what they had. I didn't want nothing to do with the booking or any of that shit. There's nobody had to be intimidated. But the problem is when you do good like that, in this day and age, I'm going to go ahead and say since over the last 10 years, no, not 10, 10 years, 12 years, people are intimidated instead of saying, wow, let's work together. See what I'm saying? So I don't know, maybe it's the Italian in me, maybe it's the way I carry myself, but people were intimidated by it. Now Kerry wanted me to go ahead and start promoting all their towns after that, but it was cock-blocked by the others in the infrastructure. And I'm not going to say names as a means to not bury anybody. All I wanted from Ring of Honor was this. The first thing was to promote their shows and get a percentage of the gate on top of a flat rate or my expenses for grassroots promoting. B, I wanted the rights to sell Ring of Honor content and Ring of Honor merchandise then electronically to the Spanish-speaking world. And C, I was trying to put a deal together between ROH and what was then HD Net Fights, Mark Cuban. Okay? So, that being said, when I was in close with them, a few of the concepts that I had of my own to try to sell as partners to their already awesome fan base that was purchasing DVDs were concept matches. And one of those concept matches was a company that I was going to call TTW. The whole thing was going to be a monthly thing featuring people from all over doing triple threat matches. So I wanted to reinvent triple threat wrestling to where it would make sense. People respond to it, and it's something different, you know, based upon pop culture. That being said, prior to that, Total Nonstop Action, okay? That was the name of the company. Well, nothing could have been further from the truth after they started shitting on AJ and all the smaller high flyers and cruiserweights. Nothing could have been further from the fucking truth. Dave Russo, sorry. Vince Russo wanted to call that company Sports Entertainment Extreme, SEX, and that's pretty much what happened. There was a point in there where I wanted to make the Cruiserweight Championship, or the TNA, what do they call them?
The X Division.
Oh, I'm sorry. X Division matches under triple threat rule. Triple threat defense for that title, and then have an aging but still could work Jerry Lynn and Christopher Daniels as player coaches to teach those guys for future reference in the couple 3 years that Chris Daniels could do something and Jerry Lynn had left to be able to do something health-wise, age-wise, so that shit could live on and reinvent triple threat wrestling, which was very well received by everybody except Dixie Carter. So, that being said, it's not just your regular hammered indie bullshit. You got somebody with 30, 35 years of experience in this that's worked with everybody, all shapes and fucking sizes, who's a master student of the game, reinventing through Premier Pro Wrestling, triple threat wrestling. That is the Challenge Pro Cup defined.
And as a fan who watched TNA in the mid-2000s when the X Division was on fire, that concept I know would have gone over huge, because some of their biggest X Division draws during that time were triple threat matches. AJ, Daniels, and Joe, AJ, Sabin, and Williams, you name it. The triple threat matches were always huge crowd pleasers.
The first AJ, Joe, and Daniels was inspired by my triple threat pitch. And that was right after I left the company. You know what I mean? So that's fine. That's great. But again, I'm going to say it. We have redefined triple threat wrestling. We're building up the Challenge Pro Cup to mean something. And if you watch that shit that occurred last Saturday night with Inestra, Chase Gosling, while Matt Vine, who's the triple threat champion, defended, unfucking believable. I am going to go out on a limb and say that those three fucking guys did stuff in that ring that have never been done before.
It was incredible. It was incredible, and especially Vine is still not at 100%, but he's still recovering from that car accident that nearly ended his life. He brought everything, as did Chase and Inestra. Chase and Inestra actually ended up working together for a good part of the match. Now they're on their way to a tag team match on Saturday against Charlie Hustle and DeMarcio.
Now, all three of those fucking guys are innovative as all hell. They're creative. Inestra brings with him this cool kind of shit. If you were a skateboard fan, the greatest skateboarder that ever lived, and you can ask Tony Hawk, you can ask Tony Alba, was Jay Adams. Jay Adams just didn't have the fortitude or the sense or common sense or business sense that the others had to make money off of it, okay? But the thing with Jay Adams was he would take this high-risk, crazy fucking chance and in the midst of fucking it up, turn it into something you'd never seen before. That's Inestra. When you've got Chase Gosling, you've got a guy with unbelievable natural size who doesn't need to be on the juice, that fluctuates between 250 and 270 pounds, depends on the month and the way that he's training for that month, that can still do a 48-inch motherfucking box jump, who brings a power game but also can move like a guy that weighs 200 pounds, versus the workhorse, Matt Vine, at a non-gassed up 230 pounds with motherfucking abs. A guy that goes in there on Tuesday and Wednesday nights and works his dick off doing drills with a guy who just walked in to try out for Premier Pro Wrestling training, all the way to advanced stuff at the end of those nights. See what I'm saying? Never late, little bit of drama, but the juice is worth the squeeze. When you put those three together in a triple threat, man, those styles that conflict come together and gel like a motherfucker and will deliver to you action that you've never seen. Where's it available for the people that didn't see it in person, Justin?
Challenge Pro Championship main event is going to be available on Pivot Share, Premier Pro Wrestling.
Pivot Share or Patreon?
It's going to be Pivot Share. What is going to be on Patreon this week is that Iron Man match. And
so
actually,
what are the exclusives to Patreon?
The Patreon for this week is going to be the
Iron Man. What are the exclusive matches to Patreon, we said? We made a rule.
Yeah, the exclusive. Now that we're back to doing live crowded tapings, when we start doing our monthly Friday night tapings again, those Friday tapings are going to be
I'm not asking that. 2 weeks ago I said, from now on, these two matches are exclusive to Patreon.
You said the Iron Man?
Yeah.
And was the other one the Challenge Pro?
I booked this last week thinking that the Challenge Pro Cup was going to be available on Patreon more.
Well, in that case, it is going to be available on
See
Patreon. I'll make sure that happens.
I'm not trying to break balls, but folks, we've got to build our Patreon. You know, don't be afraid to use Patreon. It's as good an experience as subscription. It's going to catch on like subscription. Not that I don't appreciate our subscription subscribers, but you're going to get more and more exclusive stuff on the Patreon. But anyway, so basically, if you could, make sure that Challenge Pro Cup defense goes on Patreon.
Absolutely.
Cool.
It'll be up a couple days after we post this. I'll make sure of it. So this week you're going to have
the
Challenge
Pro... So like they say on the streets, sweet penis!
So I'll have the Challenge Pro Championship up and the Iron Man between Jose and Tim. We'll put our heads together, we'll figure out what $3 gets, and $5 is going to get both of them.
I'm telling you, that calling, I mean, all the shit was good on Saturday. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm going to call our main and semi-main events with Jose and Tim, 30-minute fucking Iron Man. We're also revolutionizing Iron Man. And we're also having that commemorated with a plaque as King of the Iron Man, which just so happens to be Matt Vine, who'll be facing Jose Acosta this week. That being said, these are two concepts that you're not going to get anywhere else. And the reason you're not going to get them anywhere else, one of the reasons is people can't do it. Wrestlers can't do it. Our wrestlers can do it, and they can suspend your disbelief, and they can be compelling in this shit. Those two matches alone, I shit you not, I'm not lying to you, I'm an old fucking guy. And I work out, it's not about that, but commentating those two fucking matches, my jaws were sore Sunday morning, so was my upper fucking back from laughing, shouting, and fucking calling that match, those matches. You know what I mean, Justin?
I know exactly what you mean.
So I'm a guy who's watched so much fucking wrestling. I'm so sick of wrestling watching it. You know what I mean? If I enjoy that shit, trust me when I tell you, you fans will.
And anybody else, any other booker, promoter in the area, if you think you can put on a compelling 30-minute match with the talent you have to work with, the challenge is out there, man.
Yeah, let's see it, you know? And I'm talking about anywhere in the country, in some cases even at NXT, and that's not me being a punk or me even taking off a big bite. It's a bold fucking statement, but it ain't bragging if you can back it up. And with our talent roster, we can.
And if you're good at something, you should be rewarded for it. That's why we have the King of the Iron Man plaque. That's why we have the Challenge Pro Cup.
These are grueling matches. These matches are awesome, and these guys are the talent roster, the participants, the workers, the wrestlers, are motivated and inspired to get in there and try something new and see if they sink or fucking swim in front of you guys. And I fucking love that and the way that that shit has been perceived by you guys. Live crowd, YouTube, Patreon, or Pivot Share. You know,
and
that's why I stick this out.
And our undercard titles, they're all based on your ability to endure whatever type of concept match it is. The Challenge Pro Championship says you're the best at Triple Threat Wrestling. King of the Iron Man says you're the best at a 30-minute Iron Man. And the Armageddon Championship says that you can outlast everybody else on the roster in a gauntlet-style lumberjack match.
Exactly. So, last week we saw a kid that's come into his own without a crowd, Charlie F. and Hustle, faced a Nestor, who I described to you earlier as our version of Jay Adams, the infamous skateboarder, probably the greatest skateboarder that ever lived. He's a little browner. Charlie F. and Hustle has been coming into his own, performing for you during Corona Mania without a crowd. He did great. He did great working in front of a crowd, even though it was a small crowd, because the state is still freaking everybody out about this Corona shit.
I almost forgot coronavirus existed with everything else going on. I feel like that's just so 2 months ago.
Well, it's not. I mean, because people are still not going out. We got 100 inquiries, and not that many people showed up because they're still scared. And they have second thoughts, and people talking on them, including our talent roster. But which I'll get to that later.
A slow restart is still a restart.
Yeah, it's still a restart. But the point I'm trying to make is the way that the finish of that match will be available on Pivot Share, and holy shit, I am so surprised that Charlie F. and Hustle was to be able to walk away with that and be able to participate this Saturday night. And Nestor did go over. You'll see it. Chase Gosling faced DeMarcio, who's back. DeMarcio and I believe are pioneers with the Corona, because 2 weeks, less than 3 weeks before this shit was announced, him and I were both sick at the same time, like we've never been to fucking four, and the biggest focus on that shit was the lungs. You know what I mean? It was horrendously horrible. But anyway, after that, and then the Corona shit, that blew him out for a while. It took me 4 weeks to be able to get my appetite back and be able to breathe, you know? So he had a couple of camps behind them, because we work out. You know, our guys train like champions. Our guys train like thoroughbreds when they work out at the training facility where we tape. Him and Chase Gosling were fucking so goddamn entertaining. And you'll see in that match, when you see Chase Gosling, now that I've given propers to DeMarcio, that fucking guy at his size can do a lot of things, and he can do a lot of things well in addition to his power game. You know what I mean? The undercard was fucking outstanding, and our two main events, I will put those up against anything, if anything ran last Saturday night in the fucking country, with the level of excitement and how compelling it was, you know. This week we have Chase Gosling teaming with Anestra, because DeMarcio and Charlie Hustle put their heads together. They're trying to make a name for themselves in the industry. They're trying to make a name for themselves in PPW. And when everybody's back and we're firing at 8 cylinders, they want to be in contention for those tag titles. So they stepped up, and they want to face Inestra and Chase Gosling this Saturday night, and it's going to be fucking outstanding.
I can't wait to see Charlie Hustle and DeMarcio team up. Obviously, DeMarcio's got a little bit more time under his belt.
No, I'm not going to say he does because he missed the time. He got started, but then he got sick, and then Corona hit.
You're right.
So I'm going to say he's set back at least 4 months from that bullshit. We were closed down for 3. He missed a month with that fucking flu, which I believe he and I had Corona. You know what I mean?
But nevertheless, I mean, two guys with a not same but similar style. They're going in there against Chase and Inestra, who have two conflicting styles, more experience. It's going to be, it's going to be one to watch. Chase and Inestra, and I mean, this isn't going to be a 3-minute match by any stretch.
I'm interested to see how long that can actually go and how long those guys can stay alive, and if by chance those two younger and experienced talents can beat them. You know what I mean? Now, let's say this too. Reality-wise, Inestra and Chase have a lot more experience, by industry standards. And here's the thing that people don't think about, and this again is going to go back to this indie shit. Someone made a real ignorant fucking comment, and I heard this ignorant comment that people keep from me so I don't react. You aren't in the wrestling industry if you perform once or twice a month. You aren't a veteran if you perform once or twice a month and took 2 years off and then claim you've been around 12 years. That's why we do what we do every Saturday night. So these guys have an opportunity to work in a safe ring, to work in a setting, to work in a storyline, to go out there 52 weeks a year and do something different and have the exposure to world wrestling entertainment. And that's if by chance this thing doesn't blow up on its own, which I think it's going to with the way we're doing it, is as hard as we can work, All these other guys, weekend warriors, they're the equivalent of softball players. I played softball. I love fucking mush ball. That's Chicago softball, that mushy fucking 14-inch ball that you really got to learn to hit. Bowlers, I got no problem with bowling, darts, any of that shit. But please, don't call yourselves professional wrestling. You absolutely have no right to be trying to work, and I mean work, people. And that's what they're trying to do when they try to charge for training, because they don't know shit and can't do shit for you. You know what I mean? So there's always somebody being worked. There's always somebody on these other indie promotions losing end. And somebody that they consider a fucking mark behind their back, but brother to their face, so they can keep getting that booking, forcing people to sell tickets so they can show off in front of their friends and family. You know what I mean? Don't give me that happy horse shit, because you don't know shit about shit. And to this young person who made that asinine comment, she's a female who's only parroting the stupid shit that she said. Here's what happens in the real industry. You shoot that mouth off when you haven't had 5 seconds in the industry. Don't ever hit me up to work, because it's never going to happen. And if your name comes up, and it does come up, people ask me, and I don't bury people on purpose, but I tell the motherfucking truth. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. I remember somebody was going to get a push in another country for a promotion, and it was one phone call out of the blue, a guy I hadn't heard from in 4 or 5 years. Randy, what do you think of this guy? I go, he's a decent human being. On a business front, that motherfucker is self-trained and proud of it. Guess who never went?
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do? Lie? Ruin my name? Oh, you're an asshole. No, I'm not an asshole, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to ruin my name because of some fucking guy that's fucking can't get off his ass and do the work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If you can't prove that you deserve something, you don't deserve it. Bottom line.
I earn every fucking thing in this fucking industry that I've garnered. And maybe, oh, Randy, who the fuck's he, man? I've worked with everybody and every company, and to this day, my name gets brought up to the top people at World Wrestling Entertainment, and they get a fucking smile on their face and say, tell him to call me, how is he?
Wasn't there a story about one of one of the guys who was training with us a number of years ago, he didn't.
Yeah,
He
was an asshole. Okay, this guy was a fucking asshole. And if you're listening, I don't really give a shit. I'm not going to say your name, but you know you're a jagoff. You're a manipulator. I've had a rough life too, pal. I can tell you stories that'll make your fucking skin crawl. You couldn't fucking walk 10 feet in my fucking shoes. But I don't bitch about it. I don't use it as a manipulation to get shit and to get people to feel bad for me so they take it easy on me. This guy was a fucking glorified, disrespectful punk fan that one of the partners fucking had a soft spot for and threw this motherfucker in my way like a big fat stinky speed bump. You know what I mean?
Stinky being the operative word.
Yeah. So anyway, go ahead and tell the story because it's better coming from you than me.
So, I may not be totally clear on the details because I heard this from another guy who heard it from that guy, but apparently this guy didn't believe that you knew CM Punk. Not just knew him, you gave him his first match, essentially.
First handful of matches.
Essentially gave him his start.
I got him his first real payoff and got him his first handful of matches.
So this guy was going to go pay money to meet Punk at a
He was fucking schnopesing me. He was schnopesing me like the lefty goddamn bullshit fact checker, only they don't know any fucking facts. So he wasn't being cool. He was fact checking me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But apparently he talked to Punk, brought your name up, and quickly realized that you weren't full of shit.
Yeah.
Because Punk, as you said, got that big smile on his face.
Yep.
And so I guess that guy came back and said,
the guy kept trying to ask all these stupid questions, fact checking me, which he did. Punk said, "Yeah, oh yeah." And then when he got sick of me, he said, "Dude, okay, you're welcome for the picture. If you want to wrestle, just listen to Randy." You know?
And again, that's CM Punk who said that, folks.
There was another one, now that I think about it. My ex-wife, she you know, folks, whatever. I'm going to say it like it is. Like I said, people, you can smell through bullshit. This has something to do with wrestling, so it's not me just going off about my ex. I mean, God bless her ass. I hope she fucking is healthy and happy today because we still got one child together. So, I mean, one minor child together. So, she had this dirtbag friend. These people, they became entitled. They're man-hating women that become entitled. And I have never, ever, ever did anything inappropriate with my ex-wife. I'm sarcastic, I'm fucking funny, I'm a handful, but son of a bitch, I don't apologize for it because I'm certainly not mean or harmful. You know what I mean? People ask me, "Oh, come on, you were married 16 years. You didn't fuck up." I fucked up. I fucked up like any human being fucks up. The difference is I can own it. I can say, yeah, it was justified in my feelings, but I overreacted. I was fucking wrong. And when I say overreacted, doesn't mean I gave the bitch a backhand. You know what I mean? I acted like an asshole, and I try not to act like an asshole. So one of her dirtbag, entitled bitch, man-hating motherfucking friends tried to call me out. And she went to this thing with her son, who's a big wrestling fan, and she was going to prove that I was full of shit. But go get an autograph with her son from Mick Foley and fucking not Scott Colton,
Colt Cabana?
Colt Cabana, sorry, thank you. Needle stuck. And they were both at this fucking big thing as part of a big thing. And Foley goes, "Rockin' Randy, Cabana, they're friends of Rockin' Randy. Hey, he gave me my first match." So you see what I'm saying? Don't fucking fuck with me. You know, if your claim to fame is you got your fucking head taken off by JBL when he was encouraged to beat the shit out of you little assholes on television, don't claim to be qualified if that's your biggest fucking match. You know, if you're 50 years old and gassed to the fucking nines in a business where nobody's gassed to the fucking nines anymore, and you're still going out there having these little jag-offs that are paying you through their ass to train, and you're forcing them to fucking sell tickets for your garbage wrestling so you can have a fucking crowd, just don't say a word. Your best bet is to live and let fucking live. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm asking. You know?
If you have to manipulate and bully and guilt people into buying tickets to come and see your show. Doesn't even matter what kind of show it is, professional wrestling, a
music,
fucking ballet, whatever it is.
Music. These
yeah,
independent bands, oh my fucking God. These poor bastards, you know what they gotta do? They gotta pay to participate in some of these fucking things and perform too. You know? My kid takes dance class, hip hop, and
Zumba.
No, man, dance. You're a fucking Zumba. You got your Zumba shoes on.
That does sound like an Italian insult,
contemporary. Yeah, it did set me off, too. Did you see that?
Yeah.
My reaction wasn't good. You fucking Zumba? Anyway, contemporary and hip-hop, right? Now, Corona killed it. But the big money maker in that is the goddamn recital, you know? When that recital happens, man, I mean, that's where they make their fucking money for the year. The money that they get for the dance lessons keeps the place open. They get paid off of the fucking recital because they make friends and family buy tickets at $10, $12 a piece. Okay. Then if they do well this year, the next year they do 2 shows on the same day. You know what I mean? If they can do that well, and that's where they clean up. That's your independent Chicago wrestling. You're not allowed to wrestle, you're not booked, unless you can sell this many dollars worth of tickets.
And if that's what you have to do to get people in the door, you're not good at what you do.
No, and if you have 0 or next to 0 followers on fucking YouTube and the same bullshit on social media, if you pretend online on Facebook that it's real, you got a fucking problem. Look at yourself. You ain't professional fucking wrestling, you know? Oh, maybe I'm not professional fucking wrestling because I'm here pissed off. Well, I take a lot of pride in my industry. I'm not going to say I'm fucking right, but I'm going to say my feelings are right, and I don't feel bad, and I think a lot of people share the same type of sentiment as I do that will appreciate the fucking gloves coming off sometimes, or the curtain being lifted to this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, when you love something, you want to defend it.
I respect it. I've respected it since the minute I walked in. I didn't say shit about shit for the first 5 years I was in this industry unless somebody spoke to me. Every time I went out in front of a fucking crowd into a wrestling ring, I knew that it was an opportunity, but it was a fucking honor to be able to do so. You know what I mean? When I made, none of these other assholes have made a living in pro wrestling. Not one in Chicago that trains or claims to train ever made a living in professional wrestling. I did, and I never took it for granted. I never was a mark for myself. You know what I mean?
And that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem is guys who get a handful of matches or a handful of experiences under their belt and think that they're hot shit all of a sudden. Because they're in wrestling, man.
Yeah. You know, these guys I'm talking about, they don't have a creative bone in their body. I mean, any backyarder can try and imitate what the fuck he watches if he's got a ring or even part of a ring. Imitate what he watched on Monday night or whatever other night SmackDown's on. Or they can try to do the high spot of the week, but do something different. You know what I mean? Make something your own. That's what a Matt Vine does. That's what an Anestra does. That's what an Anakin does. That's what a Jose does. That's what a Chase Gosling does. That's what a Sensei does. You know what I'm saying? Fuck.
Yeah.
I've got myself sweating after that one.
Yeah, no. It drives me crazy, and I mean, knowledge is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, yeah, it does wisen you up to things, but on the other hand, I mean, it just makes you open your eyes to all this needless bullshit that goes on that other people just don't see because they're not exposed to it.
Waste of energy. It's a waste of energy.
I was actually talking to Matt Vine maybe a couple of months ago about that, and how, you know, we don't watch wrestling the same way as we did when we were kids and didn't know anything about it. On the one hand, it's interesting to, you know, to be able to kind of look past what's on the screen, watch a little bit more of the footwork, understand a little bit more about how to tell a story, but on the other hand, you're a lot more critical at the same time.
Well, last week I was waiting for something, and we had to go run errands or some shit. So while my daughter's getting ready, I put on, I want to say it was Raw, and I saw Seth Rollins against...
Was that Aleister Black you faced?
Aleister Black, yeah. Sorry, I'm a jagoff, whatever. Seth Rollins ain't over worth a fuck. Seth Rollins has 2 to 3 guys with him trying to get him over, putting him over. He's got Aleister Black inside the ring trying to get him over. And then he's got that other kid from Mexico, Angel Garza's cousin,
Humberto Carrillo.
He's got 5 people there trying to get him over, and he ain't over. You know? Mm-hmm. You know what popped me there? Couple of things that Aleister Black did because... Aleister Black?
Aleister Black.
He stood out more than Rollins, number one, with his presence, and also what the fuck he was doing in the ring. And Humberto stood out because that kid did whatever little bit that he did, but it's the look. It's a presence. Even though he's smaller than Rollins, you can tell that Rollins is in that situation where he's kind of become a mark for himself, so it wasn't that over. Following that, I don't know the order, I saw Apollo Crews.
Apollo Crews, the U.S. champ.
Versus Kevin Owens. And if you knew Kevin Owens, when I knew Kevin Owens, he was, at least 150 pounds heavier. He was a fat kid that would travel with ROH. He would train there. He would travel with them. He would set up the chairs, set up the ring, take down the chairs, take down the ring, run errands, scrape gum off of seats if they stuck them on there, you know what I mean? Just to work in the opener and not get paid, okay? He paid his fucking dues, and 9 times out of 10 in the beginning, it was a let's humiliate the fat kid. But he kept coming back and evolving, and he did. He earned everything he fucking has, Kevin Owens. Everything he has. Starting from where he started from, he has worked harder than almost anyone in the current roster that you would consider a top talent in World Wrestling Entertainment. And my hat's off to him. My respect is off to him. The word earn, keyword earn. Kevin Owens and the word earn go hand in hand.
I never knew that. I never knew that stuff.
Yeah. He had a great match with Apollo Crews, which then turned in and spun into a tag team match against Almas and Garza, who I loved. That's what stuck out the most to me, were those, what I'm talking about. The performance by those Mexicans was outstanding. The work rate of a beat up, getting older Kevin Owens, and this fucking Cruz finally getting the ball handed to him, and the way he ran with it. He did a lot of special things, which is great. But most special thing he did was did most of the fucking in-work minutes-wise in the singles match, and then the goddamn tag match live, which he's never been put in that position before. When I watch Raw, that's what I notice. That's what Vince will notice too.
Yeah, and it's... Yeah, on the one hand, it's kind of sad to see, because when Rollins first came in, you know, I kind of thought he would be a big star, but the problem is that I feel like he's peaked, he's plateaued, and now he's doing the whole Jesus gimmick, which, let's face it, CM Punk did it 10 years ago and did a lot better with it.
Well, when Punk did it, it was hammered shit. No, it wasn't hammered shit. It's hammered shit now. When Punk did it, okay, think about this, okay? Because I heard you guys talking about it, and the way I watch it and the way I know what I know, that whole fucking thing was good. It was damn good when he was doing it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It was way over, and then they
shaved that broad's head.
Yeah, Serena.
That's where the shit got silly, okay? But shortly after, they killed it off. But guess what? That set the stage for the real Phil Brooks or CM Punk. He is a straight edge, punk loving motherfucker. They're very intelligent, very controversial, and they love to argue. You don't get mad where you want to hit them when they fucking argue. You know what I mean? But they're sarcasm personified, which was all part of Punk's road to real stardom, leading up and building up to making the fucking, did he call it a pipe bomb?
Yeah,
Do you see what I'm saying? The anti-hero bullshit led up to the pipe bomb, made the pipe bomb make sense. Then that kid dug in, grabbed that fucking fumble, and ran with it and made enough money to never have to work again.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the company...
That's the difference. You got a Seth Rollins who is desperate to get over, and it is not working. He knows it, but he ain't selling it.
Yeah. And I mean, you have to remember too that they trusted Punk so much with that ball, they kept it on him for over a year.
Tell me how the fuck in the history of pro wrestling a guy that size main evented
and
all that time and drew fucking money.
On the one hand, yeah, they knew he was a big money draw, but you don't give somebody the championship for over a year if he doesn't bring something other than merchandise sales to the table.
Oh, dude. And the Chicago indie tards, I mean, you should have seen it. I'm not going to name names again. Every Chicago indie tard was looking for ways to bury him. Well, man, the only reason they're pushing him is because he draws so well in Chicago, and they depend on Chicago. Look how often they run Chicago. And then, when it was undeniable and the motherfucker got over everywhere else, now they try to attach themselves. He's my friend, man, Phil, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just a bunch of nut swinging. Oh, it's disgusting to me. Because they all fucking hated his ass because they're jealous of his ass. That kid is another one. Let's go back and use the word earned. He was told 8 times by World Wrestling Entertainment, you will never work here. Stop sending us your shit. You're skinny fat. You will never work here. That's what I'm about. That's what people are about. And people are going to, you know, like they say today, people have a better nose for bullshit than they used to. That's who's going to be over in the end. You know? What are you doing over there?
Taking notes because these titles don't write themselves. I try and get as creative as I can with titles, so every time I feel like we're on to something, I write it, make a quick note of it, and hopefully can make a compelling title out of it.
You're really good with words. Words have escaped me. You know, I'm not as eloquent as I once was, hence my language. I can't tell you what I mean with the passion that I want to say things with. Hey man, so did you know this and that and the other? You know what I mean? I don't want to do that. But in the same token, I don't want to steal Jimmy Cornette's gimmick. You know what I mean? Because that works for Jimmy. It always has. So I'm just being fucking Rand. You know what I mean? And today Rand's a little ornery. Yeah. You know?
Well, I have no middle ground either. I'm either the most articulate son of a bitch you've talked to all day, or I'm like Mushmouth from Fat Albert.
No, you're pretty goddamn good with words, you know. Now, this Saturday night, I'm really looking forward to it. I want to see that tag match, and I am looking forward to actually calling that 30-minute between Jose Acosta and Matt Vine. The things about Jose Acosta, if I said it before, I don't remember where I've said, if I said it on the podcast or said it somewhere else. Jose Acosta is a fucking Navy veteran. He married a girl, and they had 3 children. Somehow they met in Hawaii, so when their marriage and they got separated happened, she moved to Hawaii with her family. Jose Acosta is from Metro Chicago. You try and fucking get to see your kids when they're all the fucking way in fucking Hawaii. I guarantee you, and I know from experience what I've seen in family courts as a man who won sole custody of a minor child, a female minor child, without an attorney. Okay, I've seen it. Most guys give the fuck up because of the battle, man. This motherfucker fought tooth and nail for a year and a half, and got the courts to force that woman to relocate back to the United States, to relocate near his home so he can have 50-50 fucking custody of his children, okay? That's what the fuck Jose Acosta is, you know? People see that in his work, because this is a determined man. If he can make some money at this, if he can get WWE's attention at this, and apply, now that he's got that off his back, that's extra energy to his wrestling. What the fuck do you think's going to happen when he goes out there and he faces a Matt Vine who's been doing this for a long time? And I've had 100 people through the door since Matt Vine came in there, and I will say, and everybody can say what they want about Matt Vine, is the hardest working motherfucking wrestler in Premier Pro Wrestling. They're going to face each other this Saturday night in a concept match, the goddamn king of the Iron Man match. 30 fucking minutes, and the way you win the match is the guy who ends up with the most falls. How in the flying fuck is that not going to be off the chain? How in the flying fuck can all these half-heads wrestling companies in the area fucking compete with that?
And this actually reminds me of the, I guess you could call it the ancestor of what we now call an Ironman match. Back in the territory days, they used to call them marathon matches. But what you see in our Ironman matches reflects a lot more of those classic marathon matches than it would your standard Ironman match in 2020.
So what
pure wrestling ability.
Yeah, you can't do the same shit twice because people won't buy it. They'll shit on you.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Let me ask you this. Where did you get that term marathon match when you talk about territories?
I was watching, I think I was actually, what was the, I watched a little bit of it. The one where,
Mid-South or Georgia
Vern and Fritz and all those guys got together. Was it StarCast?
Starcade.
No, not Starcade. It was the one they put on to bust Vince's balls for WrestleMania.
Well,
it was World Class. It was AWA. It was Mid-South.
And also you had some territory guys there. You had USWA because Kingfisher Jeff was involved. I want to say the Fuller Welches were involved. They were from Alabama. So let me tell you something. Vern Gagne, when he broke in, the Crusher, when he broke in, when they would go and they would work these matches at the Marigold, you know what I mean? And back in those days at the Chase and all that stuff, some of those matches would go 90 fucking minutes. But it was a different climate, you know what I mean? They could entertain people for that long. When I was in Memphis, we didn't make a big deal out of the time limit because 30 minutes on a house show was nothing. We were doing that every night of the week in a house show. You know what I'm saying? 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour in a house show, which is great. I did that every night, and sometimes I would work 2 30, 40-minute matches in one night in the territories and then have to go to the next town and do it the next night. You know what I'm saying?
Super Clash, that's what it was called.
Yeah, they had 1, 2, and 3, and it dipped out because there wasn't any money, you know? You couldn't bring the Fullers up here and put them on a grand stage in Chicago and expect that anybody was going to know the Tennessee fucking stud up here because they're famous from Alabama and the Mid-South.
Right.
Jerry Lawler had some national recognition because of what the hell happened with Andy Kaufman. The Von Erichs were on a syndicated TV, so people knew who they were, and everybody got moist, even the dudes, for Kerry Von Erich in his prime. You know what I mean? Yeah. Vern didn't really have anything to bring to the table when everything was said and done, except for, a handful of awesome fucking workers, but Vern was struggling himself. You know what I mean? So it just didn't work. You know what I mean? And the other thing is who's going to be the boss? Who's going to do the job? You know what I mean? Everybody's ego was so big, and they were all too sensitive and on edge because they were fucking losing their grip on the industry, you know?
Yeah, and it doesn't help anything when you're trying to partner with somebody you don't trust, and you're constantly looking over your
exactly.
shoulder.
Good point. Nobody trusted anybody either, and I do know this. When I went to Memphis the first time and I was rooming with Robert Ford, they were still waiting for the fucking paycheck. Nobody understood how what is this pay-per-view thing that Vince Jr. is doing right now, blah, blah, blah. They didn't understand, and I think it's probably the same way still. You have this many buys. Well, guess what? Cut that shit by 20% because a lot of those people don't fucking pay their cable bill. That's gone. Then it takes up to 6 months to get paid on that shit. So you can whack a percentage off from that. Then when you have that many people, what you're talking about, World Class had 12 to 14 people. No. Yeah, I'd say 12 to 14 people on their roster. I would say that the Mid-South for Jarrett's 10 to 12 people on the roster. In Alabama, probably 10 people on their roster, and then Vern with another 10 to 12 people on their roster. Now you're talking about 36 to 48 fucking guys that you got to pay.
Yeah.
There's no fucking money.
Yeah. When all is said and done, and then again, you don't know who's out to screw you over and stab you in the back. I mean, when you separated those territories, everybody talks about nepotism and favoritism. Oh, well, Greg got pushed because he was Vern's son. The boys got pushed because they were Fritz's boys. But when you think about it, there was so much backstabbing and everything, at least as I understand it, that if you had family, you put the title on them because they were the only ones you felt like you could trust.
Okay, so here's the thing. To a point, I would say that each company individually understood their place. You know what I mean? I've seen Kerry come into Memphis, and we hot-shotted him for a few weeks to get his timing back before he went to work for Vince. Before his first push with Vince McMahon. He needed to come there with ring timing. There was no developmental territory. Putting Kerry over was good for fucking television. You know what I mean? It was good for the business, and a Robert Fuller, a Dutch Mantel would go out there and do their goddamnedest to do it. That's what's good for business. We were basically strategic partners, so the higher the gate, the more we all got paid. Therefore, we're having to carry around and putting him over, fucking no problem. Fuck you, pay me. You know what I mean? The Fullers, the Welches, the Fullers, they were very fair with their pay. People like to work for them because they would pay you on a percentage. So same thing. Whatever was good for business, even if the guy can't barely tie his boots, if there's money in him and we can get him over, let's fucking do it. You know what I mean? But when you take him, and Fritz, I don't think anybody had any problem putting Fritz's kids over because they were fucking rock stars. You know what I mean? And i.e. the heels that worked for Fritz. You know what I mean? But when you take them all and you put them under this thing where Vern and Greg had the idea, that makes Vern and Greg the heel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they were the ones responsible for pay, and they didn't understand, they were over-promising. Number one, the cable company took at least 50%, and like I say again, you could whack 20%, probably more, off of people not paying their cable bill or letting that one expire back then and turning on a new one in your wife's name or making up a phony fucking name just to get the pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? They weren't real buys. That's partially what killed ECW off later. You know what I mean? Chicago is the stupidest place to do something like that because it's so fucking expensive to run here. Their egos were bruised by Vince. Vince was learning to keep them out of certain buildings, i.e. I think then it was the Rosemont Horizon or the UIC Pavilion, wherever the fuck they did it. There's a lot of cost. These are union fucking venues. You're retarded.
That super clash they had in Chicago was at the UIC Pavilion.
Yeah, that used to be Vince's building. It used to be Vince's building. Everybody could run there, including WCW, NWA. But their egos are bruised and running there, man. If I was them, they should have just focused more on, instead of taking the fucking world over, they all knew and know that the business goes in cycles. You know what I mean? I was told that in my first territory. Handsome Jimmy, kid, when you're done working, get cleaned up, get up here, and fucking watch and write down shit because the business goes in cycles and it's about to change. And when it does change, the shit that you're seeing here, no one else will have access to. That's going to make you valuable. You know what I mean? They should have focused on their territory instead. They should have learned how to optimize. And Vince knows how to optimize. That's the difference. On top of fucking taking over the world, that jagoff Vince McMahon Jr., Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr., knows how to fucking optimize. He knows how to make money and keep that stock at a reasonable rate during the motherfucking Corona, having the BK, the XFL, you know what I mean, with a smaller roster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They didn't learn how to optimize. They were operating out of that ego, and that's what killed that off from starting.
Yeah. Well, I've seen, You know, I've watched the AWA documentary, the world class documentary on the network, and
I didn't know there was one. I'll watch them and see how accurate they are. I'll let you know.
They're WWE produced, so obviously there's a little bit of sway to them, but go ahead.
Sorry, I'm gonna take the sway out of the situation. When I watch Dark Side of the Ring and things like that, the places I've been and the things that I've lived through. Don't forget, I was the last of that full-time roster in Memphis, where we worked every fucking night, you know. And I was there at World Class within a month, maybe 2 months of it closing its doors forever. So I can look at where I was as a guy being there versus what their factotums get the information. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was a guy who didn't party, was there sober, and I paid very close attention, as I was taught by Handsome Jimmy and Robert Fuller, to watch wrestling in a whole different light than even the boys were. You know what I mean? I was there to learn the fucking industry, everything I could. You know what I'm saying? And I can tell you, fill in the blanks, and thanks, because that'll give us content for this. I can tell you, like, what was said, what led to it, you know? And I'd be accurate. I'm accurate as fuck, you know?
Yeah, but where was I going? Oh, yeah, you could tell in the interviews with, Vern has since passed since the documentary was done, may he rest, but you can tell when they talk to Vern, when they talk to a lot of those older territory guys, they still refer to Vince as the Kid. Yeah, because that's how they saw him.
Junior.
They saw him as this little hotshot kid who was trying to basically hone in on their territory.
Yeah, the more I look at what happened, he wanted to work with them. He wanted to conglomerate and work with everybody and become one global fucking force.
I think that's why he tried to work with Turner in the 80s when he bought the rights to WCW.
Well, even prior to that, what he did was he approached these guys. He approached Vern in particular, that comes to mind, where he wanted to work with him. And when they insulted him and said, "Who the fuck are you? You'll never be half the man your father is," he said, "Okay, fuck you. Now I'm going to take over the world." Yeah. And he did, the motherfucker. But I can't say it was unprovoked. As much as they try to make Vince look like the heel in the history books, at the end of the day, that's what a businessman does. Yeah. He wanted to work with them. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to be partners with the Kid or Junior. You know.
And if there's one thing Vince has always understood really well, at least in the time I've been watching WWF, WWE go in cycles and hit those peaks and valleys, is that Vince values, he understands the value of legitimate competition.
Yeah. Or at least the air of it,
Yeah.
One of the greatest times in wrestling for me was and this is what finally killed off the territories, he was running those A, B, and C towns. He was running 3 towns a night, where Hulk would work somebody and then jet into the next town. He worked somebody right before intermission, jump on a plane, those guys would go do the top angle in another town right after in the main event. They get there just enough time. They couldn't even change or nothing, you know what I mean? They're running A, B, and C towns. The awesome part about that is if somebody got hurt on your fucking A roster, you put them on the B roster. If they got real hurt, you put them on the C roster. Your C roster was where your fucking guys should be now that are at NXT to learn how to fucking work instead of the 2 or 3 shots a week they get. Watch how much better they would be. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Now, he wanted to do this shit with the territories, So they had the top talent, they had an A town together, a B and a C town. They hit them where they ain't, But at the end of the day, it's my opinion these guys need to work more, and you would see the end results in the work in the matches. You know what I'm saying? But, that shit worked for Vince for a long time. 3 towns a night, think about it. Coco Beware and, I don't know, One Man Gang or something would be the main event in Danville, Illinois. The same time they're running another town 200 miles away and another town 200 miles away, which is probably the Horizon. See what I'm saying? Yeah. That was great. And live merchandise at each one of these fucking places. They were killing it,
Yeah, and you can't do something like that unless you know how to optimize, as you said.
Optimize, exactly. The thing that changed is, he tried to take everything in-house. What ended up happening then is, first you had your wrestlers and promoters and bookers with too much of an old school mentality, Well, you also had your promoters who worked for them with an old school mentality. So some crazy stuff would happen, Some of your promoters would run a town and then say, well, we don't have to pay that bill. You know what I mean? And then even though it was in that promoter's company's name or corporation's name, they would try to go after Vince for the advertising bill. You know what I mean? Because there was no liability between the two. You know what I mean? They were a separate company promoting for Vince, but Vince had liability. So he had to take all the craziness and bring it in-house, then become publicly traded. So when you become publicly traded, it costs you actually more money to hire more employees and pay them benefits to go and run this shit. You know what I mean? So how do you optimize? How do you optimize off of a town that draws 2,000 people for the night? You can't.
No.
When you're publicly traded. Anything else? We coming up to a close?
No, we just crossed. I'm watching the ticker. We just crossed over an hour again, organically.
Sweet penis, like they say in the streets, like the kids say these days. Sweet penis.
Them damn kids in there talks about penises.
I just appreciate all of you that have been with us on Patreon since the beginning. Appreciate the shit out of everybody that's recently signed up. And the coolest thing I like about it is we're really building up a vault, so to speak. So when you do sign up or newly sign up, go back and check out some of this stuff. We're not building this with, I'm not forcing Grandma to, but hey, Grandma, you want to hear my podcast, Mom? You know what I mean? Wait. Oh, that's what I got for you fucking indie tards. Did you hear it? There's a kiss for you.
I don't know if it came over. If it didn't, I'll try and amp it up so they can hear it.
I ripped a good one. My grandfather used to fart on us and say, there's a kiss for you as kids. And then when we fart, he'd go, God damn it, what's wrong with you, son of a bitch? And then he'd run out there, smell like shit, God damn it.
Reminds me of that bit that Cosby did back in like '82. Whenever he was done, he would go, oh boy.
Anyway, fucking farting, huh? Our goal is to make this worth every fucking dime you pay for it. Keep watching as we evolve it. As it's an evolution with this Patreon and wrestling. I don't think anybody's doing it, and if they are, it's just dabbling or a toe in it. All the shit I'm saying is true. I don't lie. You can tell the things I'm passionate about, but they're fucking truth and fact based. You know what I'm saying? Honest to God, you know me a long time now. Am I full of shit on anything?
Hell no.
That's what I'm saying. So we're going to make this worth your fucking while. We're going to strive to do so. And I hope you guys feel like you're getting what the fuck you're paying for.
Yeah, and you actually brought up some. I don't think we plug enough about Patreon. When you sign up, the day you sign up and get approved to become a patron through
the archives,
you get instant access to everything we've ever done.
Yeah.
That whole entire feed. I mean, obviously, depending on what tier you're on, you may have access to certain things and not to others. Right now, if you start at that $5 tier, you're going to see everything we've ever done. But still, you're going to be able to go back to the very beginning when we launched this in October?
Yeah. But again, I'm still going to say it's in the beta stages. We don't have it worked out yet. But I like it so far. It's got legs.
It's definitely, it's going to be a process and not a short process either. But this month, I mean, we've already had, this last week, not a month, we had 2 people sign up at $5. So
Sweet.
I mean, it's growing. It's growing slowly, but it's growing.
Yeah,
and so we appreciate it.
And I feel encouraged about that too. After this Corona bullshit, everybody's fucking hurting.
Definitely, and we're constantly trying to think up new things because we want you to see what we're giving you as an investment and not an expenditure.
So let's go ahead and close, and you know how to fucking let's not pimp. Wait, that boy.
I think the mic definitely picked that one up.
Okay, what I wanted to ask you, Justin, is do you know what you call an Italian with a toe? A prosthetic toe made of rubber?
I have no idea.
Roberto. See you next week.